Welcome to Less Than 12 Parsecs, the fastest Star Wars podcast in the galaxy. Now here's your host, Tim McMahon.
It's Friday! That means it's time for our weekly recap and review of all the Star Wars headlines that grabbed my attention this week in the world of Star Wars news. And you know what? It was a really slow news week this week. I know I said that last week, but it was even slower this week. That, or there just weren't that many headlines that I found that interesting. Honestly, I think it's because everyone is saving up all their big announcements, all their big reveals for Star Wars Celebration, just about a month away now. As you know, I am not going to Star Wars Celebration. I'm just not a convention guy. It's just not fun for me. I don't like standing in lines and the fear of missing out on the good stuff, and I'm a miser. I don't want to spend the money. Well, that's what I tell myself, but every year, just before Star Wars Celebration, I start kicking myself. I start regretting the decision not to go. And it's happening to me now. Right now, I'm regretting the choice not to go. Why is that? Well, it's because of our first headline this week. The big news this week, in my opinion, was that Star Wars Celebration 2018 is not going to happen. It's not going to be a 2018 Star Wars Celebration. Now, traditionally, Star Wars Celebrations have not been an every year occurrence, but they've been on a pretty good roll lately. But it looks like 2018 is going to be skipped. 2019 is the next Star Wars Celebration. No word yet on where it's going to be. I'm guessing they're probably going to jump back to Europe. You know, they haven't been to Japan in a very long time. Or they could swing back to the West Coast and do Anaheim again. Hey, how about some love for the middle of the country? Why not go back to your roots? Go to Indianapolis. Or at least Chicago. Or hey, why not come to my hometown, Portland, Maine? Come on, help me out. Not gonna happen. You know, I have other summer plans for 2018, a big trip, so I wasn't going to go to Star Wars Celebration next year anyway. But you know what? This gives me something to shoot for 2 years from now. Start saving my pennies. The other big news of the week that grabbed my attention is that Marvel Comics is going to bring back Darth Vader in his own ongoing series. Darth Vader, I guess we're going to call it Darth Vader Volume 1 now, lasted 25 issues. It took place right after A New Hope. And if you listen to the expanded comic verse with Alan Voivod and myself, you may remember the rumor I had read online that said they were planning to end Darth Vader anyway, and then they were going to bring about a new series that does a time jump to post-Empire Strikes Back. Well, the rumor was half true. Darth Vader Volume 2 coming out does do a time jump, but it jumps back. It's jumping back to right after the events of Revenge of the Sith. We're going to learn the story of how Anakin became the Darth Vader in the suit. Well, yes, we know how that happened on Mustafar and then the surgery and such, but what were his first days adjusting to his new life like? I don't know. My impression is this series is going to be pretty darn brutal. And speaking of brutal, apparently some of the dialogue in The Last Jedi was pretty brutal for John Boyega. He shared a photo on Instagram this week. It was a work of art, an image given to him by director Rian Johnson of Finn, and the words biohexacrypt. What is a biohexacrypt? We don't know, but apparently it's a line of dialogue that John stumbled over many times while filming the film. Hey, remember Harrison Ford told George Lucas, buddy, you can type this crap, but you sure can't say it. Looks like the tradition of clunky Star Wars dialogue is continuing through Episode 8. Love it. And speaking of Episode 8, Disney shareholders got to see some scenes in a recent board meeting. And of course, because of the internet, what they saw has been leaking online. Apparently they saw the very first scene of the movie, at least. So, spoiler alert, people know what Luke Skywalker supposedly says to Rey as his first words in the film. I did not want to know these first words until I saw the film, but you know what? You can't turn back. I'm not going to tell you what they are, because if you're spoiler-free, or trying to stay spoiler-free, I'm not going to ruin it for you. Hey, I'm just that good of a guy. Anyway, that's the world we live in. What you gonna do? And finally, the last news event of the week strikes close to home here on Less Than 12 Parsecs. You may remember a few months back, the Star Wars Podcast Awards were looking for nominations for your favorite shows. I don't think I was begging for votes, but you know what? I said, hey, if you want to nominate Less Than 12 Parsecs for Best New Show, I'd really appreciate it. They always say it's an honor just to be nominated, and I'd like to find out. Well, guess what? I found out. It is an honor to be nominated. Yes, Less Than 12 Parsecs has been nominated for your favorite new show of the year. I promise you, I'm not going to ask for your vote. I'm not going to go out and beg. I'm not going to hit social media up every day saying, hey, please vote for me. I'm just going to do it now, and I'm going to do it maybe one other time just before voting ends on April 1st. Please check out the show notes or go to 12parsecs.podcast.com to find the links to the 2017 Star Wars Podcast Awards. And you know what? If you need to vote for a show for Best New Show, I would not be upset if you voted for us. And if you don't, hey, that's quite all right. You know what? I'm not even sure if I'm going to vote for myself because I really like some of the shows in that category. I'm going to be honest with you. I think some of them are even better than this show. That's true. Yeah. And I'm not playing humble. I'm not being self-deprecating. It's a fact. Anyway, once again, it is just an honor to be nominated. Thank you very much. Well, that wraps up this week's news and headlines that grabbed my attention. Is there something you found interesting? I want to know. Email me at 12parsecs@gmail.com or connect with me on any of my social media accounts. All the links can be found on my website, 12parsecs.podcast.com. Thanks for listening. Ootini!
You've been listening to Less Than 12 Parsecs, the fastest Star Wars podcast in the galaxy, part of the expanded Fandomverse network of shows. For links and show notes, visit our website, 12parsecsPodcast.com. Follow Less Than 12 Parsecs on Twitter at 12parpod, on Instagram at 12parsecsPodcast, on Tumblr at 12parsecsPodcast, and find us on Facebook as well. And please let us know what you think. Email us at 12parsecsPodcast@gmail.com.